There's nothing wrong with Caleb Downs potentially playing safety, running backs, and returning punts for Ohio State.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a Wednesday hump day edition of Locked On Buckeyes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here on Wednesday, June 19th in the year 2024, I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast, and I'd like to thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. When we think about college football players, we think about them playing one position. You might be a quarterback. You might be an offensive lineman. You might be a defensive end or a safety, but you're playing one position. A lot of these athletes played multiple positions in high school. Some played multiple sides of the ball. Some may have been a linebacker and a tight end, or a defensive end and a tight end, or a fullback. Some may have been a running back and a linebacker. High school, a lot of guys play both sides of the ball. A lot of them play multiple sports. In college, you get a little, specialized in. You kind of focus on one position and what position is the best for you and your future playing football. Well, Ohio State has a guy named Caleb Downs who is really, really good. Is probably the best player on the team. I don't really speculate with that a lot, but I mean, it's possible he is the best player on the team. And Ryan Day, during a recent presser, talked about Downs playing running back. In the spring, he was getting some reps at running back, got some options pitched to him. He has been in running back meetings, and this thought popped into my head. Y'all, there is nothing wrong with Caleb Downs potentially playing safety, running back, and even returning punts for Ohio State. Now, there might be some pushback to that saying, Jay, if he's potentially the best player on the team, why in the world would you put him there at all three of those positions? Safety is his best position. He was playing that no matter what. Keep him there. Running back, he is not one of your top two guys. Ryan Day says he wants to have four guys there in that room that are, hey, we can trust them. Well, if Caleb Downs potentially could be the third running back or the fourth running back, and the Buckeyes are potentially going to play possibly 17 games this year, do it. Have him go over there, be RB3 or maybe even RB4, and let him go up over there and just play the football. Let him do what he does best. He was recruited as a safety, but during his high school recruitment, Caleb Downs had conversations with Ohio State about playing a little running back as well. So this is not the first time the Buckeyes have had conversations with Caleb Downs about playing the running back position. And then when it comes to returning punts, he did that at high school too. Did it very well. Can do it at Ohio State. Did it last year at Alabama. Why not just put him out there and play? If he gives Ohio State the best position or the best position to be a guy that can do that, fill a role in a depth piece at running back and return punts, do it. And when it comes to returning punts, if he is the best punt returner on the team, put him back there. Just do it. Now, some of y'all may think, Jay, no, if he's really that good, no, let somebody else do it who may not be as good as him, but we want to preserve the body. Y'all, this is football. Y'all watch football a long time. I've watched football a long time. Players are going to get hit. There are going to be car crashes on every play. It's a part of the game. If you're afraid about a player potentially getting hurt, or if you're afraid of a player trying to preserve the body, think about what is going to happen with Tyleik Williams and Tuimoloau and Sawyer and Hamilton and McLaughlin and Hensman and Fryer and Jackson. And those boys are going through literal beatings every single play. That's a part of the game. Now, playing safety, you're not getting hit the same way that an offensive or defensive lineman is, but you got to realize physicality is a part of the game. You want to be physical. And if you're trying to worry about, hey, take that away, no one here, no. If he gives you the best opportunity to return punts, go put him deep and let that young man cook. When you think about Downs last year at Alabama, he was the SEC Freshman of the Year. I believe he was a freshman All-American as well. 107 total tackles. 70 of those were solo. 3 pass breakups, 1 forced fumble, 2 INTs. And when it came to returning punts, only returned 4 punts last year for Alabama for 87 total yards. One of them was a trip to the end zone for a touchdown. So Downs is not a guy that was just doing this stuff in high school. He also did it in college. But when it comes to Downs, the running back, didn't do that last year at Alabama. But in high school, he had 27 total rushing touchdowns between his sophomore, junior, and senior seasons. He had 20 rushing touchdowns his senior year, a total of 389 rushing yards, 57 carries, 6.8 yards a pop. So even in high school, the coaches realized, hey, he gives us an opportunity to have an upper hand, to have a competitive edge on our opponent. And when he allows us to do that, what do? They found ways for him to be successful. Think about the Buckeyes running back room right now. And Ryan Day saying he wants to have 4 guys at that position and that you can trust, that you can figure things out with. Well, right now, outside of Judkins and outside of Henderson, nobody else has really proven anything. Not really. Nobody else has proven anything at that position in college. TC Coffee is the only guy that's had any run. I believe it's 10 carries, 66 rushing yards. I believe it's only 1 touchdown that came during a couple of seasons ago. I believe that was a game against Toledo. He ended up getting hurt, I believe, later that season, and last year did not play a game at all due to another injury. So then after that, who you got? James Peoples and Sam Williams-Dixon. 2 guys that are true freshmen that are trying to figure out the football, and Caleb Downs is one of those guys that knows how to play football at the safety position, can transition to running back. Yes, it's going to be different for him, but if he is better and if they have a package for him that allows him to be better and more prepared than the other 2 guys, let that young man cook. But think about this, though. I think Ryan Day is a very smart, actually, I know Ryan Day is a very smart individual, especially when it comes to kind of cross-training. One thing that'll help Caleb Downs be a better safety is to get a look on the other side of the ball to see what that position is looking at, so that when he's on the field, he knows, hey, the running back, this formation, this set, this down and distance, this situation, this is what he's looking at. So a lot of guys out there will figure out, well, if I am here, what is the other guy looking at or keying, or what is he focusing on to help him, so that when he's playing his normal position, he can realize what the other person is looking at to quickly counter that move and to get the upper hand. Story comes into my mind about this very thing. Peyton Manning and Ed Reed, the Colts and the Ravens, met multiple times in the playoffs and the regular season, and Ed Reed always tried to study and watch film to get an upper hand on Peyton Manning. Well, what did Ed Reed do? And what did Peyton Manning do? They tried to figure out that other man's move, to think, hey, if I am Ed Reed here, if I'm Peyton Manning, if Peyton Manning is Ed Reed in this situation, this down, this distance, this placement of the ball on the field, what would I do? Ed Reed, same thing. What does Peyton Manning normally do in the situation? If I'm Peyton Manning here, what would I do? And there was a play. Peyton Manning did something to react to something that Ed Reed did pre-snap. What Ed Reed did post-snap was something that Peyton Manning was not expecting. Interception, Ed Reed. It's the same thing. If Caleb Downs is a safety, but he knows what the running back is thinking, and while he's realizing what the running back is thinking, he knows, hey, if the RB does this, this is how I counter that. Caleb Downs can have a competitive advantage and have the upper hand on that player. Now, I don't think Ryan Day is only putting him over here at running back on offense just because to allow him to get a competitive advantage and get an upper hand to be a better player. I legitimately think this might happen. I don't think Ryan Day would say that in June if it wasn't something that's a possibility. I think it might happen, and I wouldn't be mad if it did. Now, how does this potential move of having Caleb Downs play running back impact the other running backs in the room? I'll tell you next. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. This formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time. or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. This episode is brought to you by Billiards Plus. Billiards Plus has the best selection of pool tables, game tables, shuffleboard tables, and more. And the best service in Central Ohio. And guys, check this out. Billiards Plus carries grills that have up to 30-year warranties. Everything you need for in-home and backyard entertainment is at Billiards Plus. And their grills, whether you like charcoal or gas or even wood-fired, Billiards Plus has a perfect setup for all grillers. They are family owned and operated, and when you talk to the staff at Billiards Plus, you know you're talking to an expert who won't steer you wrong. No matter the season, Billiards Plus has you covered for all your indoor and outdoor entertainment needs. Kenny, Sarah, and the whole staff will always go above and beyond to give you the best customer service in the industry. Billiards Plus, visit their showroom on Dublin Center Drive in Dublin. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. If I am one of the other running backs at Ohio State, TC Coffee, James Peoples, Sam Williams-Dixon, and I am having to deal with potentially a guy in Caleb Downs coming over from his safety room to the RB room and joining us for meetings occasionally to try to filter in and get up to speed on the Buckeyes running back situation, I might be a little annoyed, or I might be a little perplexed, or I might be a little confused, or I might be wondering if I made the right choice to come to Ohio State and play football. Why? Because there's a guy who's only a year older than me, if I'm one of the two true freshmen, that is coming over here that might take my reps, that might take my hits, that might take my yards, that might take my touchdowns. Y'all, I wouldn't like that. I want to play. I want the ball in my hand. I want to run through the hole, hands up, arms up, right there to get the ball handed off to me so I can skedaddle through the offensive line to get to the second level quickly, to get to the end zone, to make a name for myself. I might not like that. But keeping it in context, there's a few angles to this. One of them is the two guys that are probably going to be most first to get reps after Henderson and Judkins. It's Coffee and Peoples. Sam Williams-Dixon probably knows coming to Ohio State as a true freshman, he's probably going to redshirt this year. So Downs coming over or not, so it's probably a redshirt year for him. And James Peoples, under different circumstances, he expects this to be a redshirt year for him. Why? That's just the nature of the beast. You got two guys that are all-conference guys at various schools. You have a guy in TC Coffee who people say, hey, we can trust him, we can respect him, but he's coming off of an injury. You're probably just going to expect to play 4 games or less in a red shirt. The rules help you to get a little playing time and also keep a year of eligibility in your pocket. So that's probably expected. But if Downs comes over and you realize after the top 2, it's kind of wide open for RB3, and Downs comes over, you might be a little upset. But remember, you're a true freshman. It's okay. It's not a bad thing. And I'm saying this knowing that neither Peoples or Williams-Dixon is the caliber of running back that Jeremiah Smith is the caliber of wide receiver. If one of them was that dude or a Jeremiah Smith type running back, we would be having a different conversation. And I highly doubt Ryan Day, and I think it was Tony Alford at the time. Tony Alford at the time would have gone out there and got Judkins. I don't think that would have happened if one of Dixon or Peoples was basically the Jeremiah Smith type running back that is in this recruiting class. Wouldn't have happened. It's okay. It's okay. It's not a big deal, honestly. Now, it could negatively impact them. And then what I'm about to say is not really a negative. It's just the nature of the game. You could have one of those two guys hit the portal. You could have, honestly. If it happened in the spring and they knew what was happening and they realized, hey, this might not be the place for me, they could have entered the portal in the spring. Would it have been weird? Absolutely. But the portal is open. It's college football. Things are a little wacky and a little weird. But hey, I don't know. This is the nature of the beast. But it's okay. It's absolutely okay. It could negatively impact them. Now, it might have the biggest negative impact on Coffee, but also, unfortunately, he is still a walk-on. He is not under scholarship yet. I hope at some point in time, especially with him being a guy that people say, hey, is RB3. Even if Caleb Downs is coming over, people say, oh, he's still RB3. I don't believe that. I think it should be Downs. But Coffee could be a little upset. And also, this could be a way for him to earn a scholarship. It's still a really weird situation that he's not under scholarship right now, but that is just the way the cookie crumbles. It's okay, though. This is football. And what do you do in football? You put the right guys in the right positions for your team to be successful. That is the name of the game. That's what should happen. Does it always happen? Absolutely not. You hear me all the time. And the guests you have on this show all the time come on here and talk about and dissect the different things that Ryan Day and other coaches do that are not the right move, that makes them a little uneasy, that confuses him. And really, we could sit here and question, why are they doing this thing over and over and over and over again? Because, baby, it don't make no sense, some of these moves that have been made recently. And these aren't atrocious things where Ohio State is losing 3, 4, 5 games in a season. It's not that. No. Ohio State ain't some of them other schools in the Big Ten or even other schools in the country. It is still the Ohio State University, and there are some guidelines and some things that need to happen to keep the standard high. Speaking of the standard, has Ohio State's running back standard been up to Ohio State standard? Has Ohio State's running back play been up to Ohio State's running back standard recently? I'll wait. Take a sip of water. We got time. No, it has not been. Now, part of that is due to injury. I'm going to keep it in context. That's not all based on the coaches or the players. A lot of it has been due to injury. But outside of that, outside of 2019, Ryan Day's run game has not been up to par. Now, part of that is also the way Ryan Day called the offense. It was not just much a multiple offensive scheme. It was more of an air raid scheme. Now, granted, you say, Jay, you got guys like Njigba and Olave and Wilson and Harrison Jr. Would you do that too? No, I would not. I would not. What do you find when Ohio State, Michigan play? Who wins the game? The team that wins the ground game. Why? Because you have to win the battle in the trenches to win that game. And the battle of the trenches is one of those things where Ohio State can be more physical. They could overpower themselves. They could outsmart them. They could make the smart plays consistently. And also, if as an offensive lineman, you may block a little bit differently or just naturally a little bit better if you know the guy behind you is going to be able to do things a little special with the ball in his hand. If you have trust in the guy running the ball, you might block a little bit better if it's someone that you don't trust. Now, that's a little silly, but we're human, and that's what actually happens. Speaking of the battle in the trenches that I mentioned a little bit ago, as far as what's needed for Ohio State to win the game against Michigan, we're going to talk about that later on in the week. What is my comfort level right now, middle of the summer, with Ohio State's offensive line? Piggybacking off something that Ryan Day said about the O-line during a recent presser. We'll dive into that next. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. Ohio State's offensive line, to me, is one of those units that is very, I say, puzzling. Not because I can't put my finger on it and I can't dissect and put bullet points or write down a sentence describing where the strengths are, where the weaknesses are, where things need to improve, how those things improve. It's just puzzling because of where we are right now with the history of this position. Ohio State's offensive line used to be one of the better ones in the Big Ten, rivaling to be one of the better units in the country. And Ohio State's offensive line right now is legitimately a work in progress. Also, offensive lines are normally a work in progress right now, this time of year. So it's not like Ohio State's offensive line is a work in progress because it shouldn't be. It's a work in progress because I don't know if they're going to put the right players in the right positions. Or I don't know if they have the right guys for this O-line to be what I think the O-line should be at Ohio State. I don't know if they're going to put so many what ifs and so many things I don't know. Right now, Ryan Day, let me get this pulled up very quickly so we're all on the same page in regards to what Ryan Day said. He talked about position battles and depth and transfers and a lot of things. I'm going to read some things to you really quickly from Ryan Day's presser, and you might get a gist, a picture on what Ryan Day is thinking right now. Ryan Day is actually high on the progress that Josh Fryer has made this offseason. Quote, we see Josh making a lot of progress. He's having a really good June, a really good offseason. We feel confident with him playing guard and tackle. We've got to figure out that right side. I'd say we're leaning toward tackle for him, end quote. A little bit further, he goes on to talk about position battles, and he says this, quote, we've got to square away the quarterback. I feel like the offensive line on the right side, we've got to develop that. We've got to build enough depth at receiver, defensive tackle depth a little bit at safety. Punter is going to be significant. There is going to be a battle there, end quote. Ryan Day also, and this is coming from 11 Warriors, I think, I forget the actual writer here who put this together. But Ohio State didn't bring in any offensive line transfers in the spring. And after evaluating the players available, the coaching staff elected to trust the talent currently on its roster rather than just bringing someone in to bring someone in. Quote, if we're going to bring somebody in, it's to fill a hole, end quote. Don't know the writer, but I think it's a really good bullet point that they put together, that they put here in this article, because Ohio State could have gone out there and got a transfer in the spring or even in the wintertime, did not do it. Do they trust the guys? Should we trust the guys? I want to trust them. But y'all, there's a lot. My comfort level right now is not, I would love for it to be a 9 or a 10. It's definitely not a 1 or a 2. I'm probably 6.5, 7. And that's probably being a little bit generous. Left side of the line, even though it's not amazing, I still think that it's solid. Simmons, I do believe, will play better. Donovan Jackson's one of those guys that a lot of hype coming in when he came into Ohio State. A lot of people thought there would be a lot of really good play consistently. Hasn't lived up to some of the hype around his name. Center, right guard, and right tackle. To me, it should be Hinzman at center, McLaughlin at guard, Fryer at tackle. What it might be, McLaughlin at center, Hinzman at right guard, Fryer at tackle. I still think, Fryer's that wild card because I don't think he's a better guard than Hinzman or McLaughlin, but I think he's good enough based off the depth at that position in that room to play in the offensive line. Tackle's not his strongest fit, but I still think that's probably where he's going to end up. And if you don't put McLaughlin and Hinzman in the right spot, I do think Hinzman's good enough to start. I am not on the train that Hinzman was the weakest link last year. I am not on the train that Hinzman was a problem or Hinzman does not need to start. I am not on that train. I have never been on that train. I heard a lot of people give people that cover Ohio State and cover and watch offensive line play give different notes and had different conversations and thoughts about Hinzman's play. And I'm thinking, he wasn't that bad. NFL people like what they see from him, and they don't consistently watch college football. That means something because Ohio State, one, you want a guy that can lead your unit, lead that room, lead the offense as far as different blocking schemes to move the ball down the field consistently without any issue. But also, you want to have a leader. You want to have someone that's growing. And I think Carson Hinzman is going to start. My discomfort is McLaughlin at guard or center, really up in the air. Fryer, to me, better. I don't think he's a tackle at the next level. I think he's a guard. Also, don't know if he's going to get drafted. So you're looking at a place at Ohio State where one tackle in Simmons, I think, can get drafted if he plays better in the upcoming season than he did last year. Fryer, he's going to have to play out of his mind to get drafted. I'm just not sure that's going to happen. If it does, he's a day 3, middle to the end of day 3 type draft pick, which isn't wrong. Trust me, he's still going to get drafted, fighting to make a roster spot. But right now, I can't be all in. And even, honestly, 6.5 or 7 for the O-line, it doesn't sound terrible. I probably should say 6 to 6.5. That's probably more realistic. I don't know. 7 is probably right there the more I talk about it, because 6 or 6.5 is more to like average, or 5 or middle of the road. And I'm not there. I'm also not a 9 or a 10 or an 8. So 7 might be where I currently am. This is a big year for Justin Fry. Not just in recruiting, because this weekend they're hosting a lot of big-time official visits, one of them being David Sanders Jr. Look for a show with myself and Brian Smith to talk about a host of players, a lot of players that are going to be flocking to Columbus this weekend for official visits. They're also hosting official visits during the middle of the week as well, since players can take an unlimited amount of official visits. That is one thing that the coaches going to have to shift and change with and adapt to, like we talked about earlier this week, is changing and adapting to the consistent changes to college football. The offensive line, to me, if you want to have a really good quarterback, if you want to have a really good run game, if you want to raise up the level of play consistently and balance with the offense, you got to level up on the offensive line to play there. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult. It's not going to be one of those things you can just say, hey, we're going to walk in and just kind of figure it out as we go. No, you got to have a plan. You got to have a strategy. You're going to have to adjust. You're going to have to do a lot of things. You may have to pull a guy when you don't want to pull him and put somebody else in. Now, is it time for a backup or someone that's a little bit younger, not on the field yet, in Austin Sareveld or Tego Shabola or Luke Montgomery or any of the other guys that might be trying to play on the right side of the line? Well, I'm not really worried with Ryan Day saying the right side of the offensive line is still needs to be figured out. I think the worry may come in for some because Ryan Day said right side of the offensive line multiple times. Literally, I believe it came up in the positional battle conversation, but it also came up when he was praising Josh Fryer. So weird, man. It's weird being in the spot at Ohio State, but that's where the cookie crumbles. And we got to wait and see what happens with this unit down the road. It's really unfortunate. We're right now middle of June, and we got to wait until Labor Day weekend to watch Buckeye football. Woo! It's a long time from now. You're going to be right here. We're going to be right here until that time period, talking about your Ohio State football team, maybe a little basketball, dabbled in there, sprinkled in there every now and then, but make sure you subscribe to Locked On Buckeyes on YouTube or any audio podcast app you use. Leave a 5-star review and a rating. If you are on the YouTube, hit that bell so you are notified every time a new video goes live. And also fill up and flood the comment section, not just on this video. Smash a like button on this video, but also smash a like button and leave comments and flood them on every video across this channel. You can follow me on X at jstevens07. You can send all of your emails to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes here on a Wednesday. Buckeye fans, we'll see you next time.